Hello and welcome to Vidhammer, the battle report resource for Warhammer Fantasy. In this video, we'll be covering the second round matchup of a tournament held in November of 2011 at the Dark Side Comic and Game Store in Sarasota, Florida. This is a 2,150 point matchup between the High Elves and the Vampire Counts using the 8th edition rules. They'll be playing a custom scenario with diagonal deployment zones and warpstone tokens pre-positioned on the board that can be picked up for extra victory points. A unit must end its movement on a token to initially pick it up. Fleeing units will drop the tokens they are carrying, and any pursuing unit will automatically take possession of them. The terrain pieces being used consist of 4 column structures that are impassable, a hill in the upper left corner, a house in the upper right, a well in the center which is considered dangerous terrain, and a pond in the upper center that's ordinary water. The players put white dice down to mark the edges of their deployment zones. They then alternate placing black dice to mark the locations of the warpstone tokens. The Vampire Counts place first and start by putting a black coach behind the column on the left. The High Elves place a great eagle in the upper corner of their deployment zone, and the Vampires respond with 40 skeleton warriors with spears in the forward center of their battle line. The High Elves answer with a unit of 16 spearmen in front of the eagle, and the Vampires place a unit of 20 Grave Guard next to the skeleton warriors. 40 spearmen come down on the High Elves' battle line, and the Vampires place 20 Crypt Ghouls on the other side of their skeletons. The High Elves place a unit of 37 Phoenix Guard to the left of their large spearman group, and the Vampires put a unit of 4 Cairn Wraiths behind the leftmost column terrain. A unit of 20 Dragon Riders of Calidor come down on the far left of the High Elves' battle line, as the Vampires place their characters, consisting of a Vampire Lord riding a Terrorgeist and 4 Tomb Banshees, 1 going with the Grave Guard, 1 with the Ghouls, and 2 with the Cairn Wraiths. The Elves place 2 Repeater Bolt Throwers on the right and left ends of their battle line, followed by their Archmage General as their only character that goes with the smaller Spearman block. In spell generation, the Vampires get Gaze of Nagash and Winds of Undeath, while the High Elves end up with Occam's Mindrazor, the Withering, and 2 other spells that don't get cast. The Vampires win the starting player roll and begin moving their troops forward, with the Cairn Wraiths spreading out enough to pick up 2 Warpstone tokens at once. For the first Winds of Fate, the Vampires get 6 power dice against 5 dispel dice. The Black Coach sucks up 1 of the power dice, and they use their remaining dice to cast Winds of Undeath, but it gets dispelled. On the Elves' turn, the Dragon Riders head around the lower column, and the rest of the units move towards the center. The Phoenix Guard unit gets split due to terrain, so consider the whole unit as being where the upper portion is. In Winds of Fate, the High Elves channel for an extra die, and they get another from the Dragon Prince's banner of sorcery, but they lose 1 to the Black Coach and end up with 7 power dice against 5 dispel dice. They used 5 dice for Occam's Mindrazor, which they cast on the smaller spearmen with irresistible force. The resultant backlash kills off 6 spearmen and puts a wound on the Archmage. In the shooting phase, the first bolt thrower misses, and the second fires a volley at the Grave Guard, and it takes out 2 models. The Vampires start the second phase with an all-out assault. The Cairn Wraiths and Grave Guard successfully charge the Phoenix Guard, while the Ghouls and Skeleton Warriors charge the Spearmen, but only the Ghouls make it. The Black Coach moves toward the gap left by the Skeletons, and the Terrorgeist takes to the sky and lands behind the Phoenix Guard. The High Elves pass all of their panic checks. In the Magic phase, the Vampires give 2 power dice to the Black Coach and end up with 6 power dice against 6 dispel dice. They attempt Gaze of Nagash on the Dragon Princes, but it gets dispelled. In the shooting phase, the Terrorgeist hits the lower bolt thrower with a Death Shriek for 3 wounds, eliminating it, and 3 Tomb Banshees scream into the Phoenix Guard for 2 wounds. In the lower close combat, the Cairn Wraiths are ethereal, so the Phoenix Guard can only attack the flanking Grave Guard unit for a single wound. In retaliation, the Cairn Wraiths cause 3 wounds, and the Grave Guard, which have the Banner of the Barrows, kill off 2 more. The Elves lose the combat by 7 and fail their leadership roll of a 2. They run and get cut down by the Cairn Wraiths. The Grave Guard make a reform so they can watch the upper melee play out. The Elf Spearmen are in horde formation, so they get 3 supporting ranks to attack. They hit the ghouls for 21 wounds and kill the unit before it gets a chance to fight back. They reform and turn slightly towards the Grave Guard. On the Elves' turn, they charge the Grave Guard with their spearmen and end up clipping the Black Coach into combat as well. The smaller spearman block also pulls off an incredible charge on the Skeleton Warrior's flank. The Dragon Princes continue to maneuver around the column, hoping to see combat before the game ends. For Winds of Fate, the Elves give 1 more power die to the Black Coach, leaving them with 7 power dice against 4 Dispel dice. They use 6 dice to cast Occam's Mindrazor with irresistible force on the large spearman unit. The backlash kills off 1 skeleton and 7 spearmen from the smaller unit, but the mage doesn't get hit. In the shooting phase, the remaining bolt thrower targets the Terrorgeist, but misses. In the upper melee, the Archmage misses, but the rest of the spearmen hit the skeletons for 4 wounds. The skeletons aren't able to get any wounds in return, and take another 6 casualties in combat resolution. In the lower melee, the large spearmen are affected by Occam's Mindrazor, so they have a strength of 9. They hit the Black Coach for 8 wounds, which only saves 3 and transforms into a hearse. The rest of the spearmen repeat their first melee combat and take out the Grave Guard unit before it can attack. They reform to face the Terrorgeist and Cairn Wraiths to end the turn. On the Vampire's turn, the Terrorgeist and Cairn Wraiths move up to the spearman's flank and rear to avoid being charged. In the magic phase, the vampires get 7 power dice against 5 dispel dice. They attempt Gaze of Nagesh, but it gets dispelled. In the shooting phase, a Tomb Banshee hits the upper spearman for 4 wounds. The lower spearmen get hit by 2 Banshee Screams and a Terrorgeist, causing 7 casualties. In close combat, the smaller spearman unit isn't able to inflict any wounds, but neither are the skeletons. The Elves lose the combat due to a banner, but they pass their leadership test. On the Elves' turn, the cavalry continue to waste time as the spearmen reform and take a step back. Winds of Fate gives the Elves 8 power dice against 6 dispel dice. They use 6 dice to cast Occam's Mindrazor with irresistible force on the large spearman unit, but without double 6s, the Book of Hoth finally saves them from a miscast. They attempt to cast the Withering on the skeleton unit, but it gets dispelled. In the shooting phase, the bolt thrower enthusiastically fires another shot off into nowhere. In close combat, the mage misses, the spearmen hit for 2, and the skeletons get 1 kill. The Elves lose the combat again due to a rank and banner from the skeletons. They fail their leadership and run, but the skeletons restrain, hoping to better their position. In turn 4, the vampires charge the large spearman unit with all of their forces. The magic phase gives the vampires 6 power dice against 4 dispel dice. They use all of their dice to cast Gaze of Nagash with irresistible force. The backlash hits the vampire, who gets so caught up in saving the wound that he forgets about the spell that just succeeded. In the shooting phase, the Banshees and Terrorgeist take out 6 spearmen and cause a terror check, which the spearmen pass. In close combat, the Terrorgeist takes 7 unsaved wounds and dies. The spearmen do 9 wounds to the skeleton warriors before taking 13 in return. The Elves lose the combat by 1, but pass their leadership test. On the Elves' turn, the upper spearmen rally, and the cavalry finally charge into combat. For Winds of Fate, the Elves get 7 power dice against 3 dispel dice. They attempt Occam's Mindrazor with 5 dice, but the spell fails, ending the phase. The bolt thrower no longer has any eligible targets. just in time because they actually felt like hitting something. In close combat, the vampire shrugs off a couple of hits. The spearmen and the cavalry hit the skeletons for 17 wounds, and the spearmen take 8 wounds in return. The spearmen win the combat by 7, killing off the remaining skeletons and 3 of the wraiths. The recording stopped at this point, and I believe the battle did as well. With the successful rally of the upper spearmen unit, the elves managed to give up only a bolt thrower and their phoenix guard, while taking out everything but the wraiths. The High Elves went on to play in the final match against another Vampire Count army, which was recorded as well. Thanks for watching this battle report. Be sure to check back for more videos each week. Do us a favor and subscribe, and as always, send us a message if you have any tactics or matchups that you'd like to see. Till next time from the Vidhammer crew, keep fighting.